Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are at the beginning of 2024, and as we reflect on 2023, I think it's clear that it's been a remarkable year with many tech advancements that reshaped our world. We've seen GPT-4, we've seen the rise of generative AI, we've seen significant strides in quantum computing, we've seen groundbreaking developments with prime human genome techniques. We've seen the first prototype of 6G, okay, beyond 5G, the 6G is coming soon. So this was really an exciting year. And the key question that we have now is, will 2024 be as exciting? And basically, what are the key tech trends that we can expect for 2024? So as every year starts, Cisco publishes their tech predictions. And this is exactly what we will discuss about today. What are Cisco's tech predictions for 2024? So let me introduce myself. I'm Pascal Bornet. I'm an expert in AI with more than 2 decades succeeding and failing AI projects for the largest companies in the world. I'm also the author of the book Intelligent Automation, and I'm an influencer followed by a million. So very thrilled to be your host today. So in order to present and discuss Cisco's predictions for 2024, I have the honor to be joined by no one else than Vijoy Pandey. So Vijoy, you have a PhD in computer science. You have more than 25 years of experience in the tech industry. I mean, you work for the largest tech companies in the world, the Nortel, the IBM, Google, Cisco's. And you have a track record of leading engineering teams, driving change, basically building innovative tech solutions for companies. Vijay, very easy question to start with. Can you tell us what currently you're doing at Cisco? And I heard that you're leading Outshift. Can you tell us about Outshift?
Absolutely. And as I like to tell folks, leading Outshift is probably the best job, not probably, definitely the best job I've had in my career. And the charter behind Outshift is what is so inspiring and so exciting. So, the charter behind Outshift is to build products and build businesses that take Cisco into new markets. So if you think about Cisco, you think about a networking behemoth, you think about a security behemoth, you think about observability and collaboration. So those are the key pillars of Cisco's product strategy. And we have been formed, we sit inside of Cisco. So we are Outshift by Cisco. And our charter is to take Cisco into new markets, new problem spaces, and speak to new personas. So, both user personas as well as buyer personas. So, if you think about developers, if you think about SREs, if you think about data scientists, ML engineers, these are the personas that we would like to talk to through Outshift, and the products that we're building are solving pain points for these personas. So, think of us like an internal incubator. So, we call
Okay.
ourselves like a Y Combinator, but it's internal, but we are
Okay.
building a bunch of startups inside Cisco.
So, Vijay, we are here today to talk about the tech predictions that Cisco published a few days ago. Can you present to us what are the key trends that we can expect in this year?
Yeah, so there are quite a few. I mean, I think we have 7 predictions in that ebook that you can actually download from our website. But I think I'll touch upon a few because time is short and there's so much exciting stuff to talk about. But I think, as with everybody's in everybody's mind, AI is a big theme, and so we feel that actually generative AI, especially, is going to expand into business critical use cases. So, what we've been doing so far has been dealing with sort of low hanging fruit when it comes to generative AI penetration in the enterprise. And we feel that this year we are in a year where generative AI will solve business critical problems across the globe. That's one. The other thing that I'm very, very excited about is quantum. And quantum will actually To us, quantum has been steadily improving, and I like to say that technology actually moves in step functions. So they will actually move a little bit, and then suddenly there's a step function. And you saw that with generative AI. I mean, it was generative AI itself. The Transformer paper was released in 2017, and
Mhm. Yeah,
but end of 2022, it's almost more than a year now. End of 2022 is when it took off like a step function.
correct.
I get the feeling that quantum is in the same boat. So we are seeing a whole host of innovations happening, and we are at sizes of 100 qubits, 150 qubits of gate based quantum nodes. And I feel we are poised to make that quantum leap and go into the future where we'll actually have usable systems. And for that, I think Cisco again is looking at solving for quantum networking and quantum security use cases as we build out these systems. So to me, these two are very important. The third thing we feel is because of, so we've been talking about APIs and an API first economy, and that has been for a while we've been talking about that as an industry. And
Mhm.
we've always, you heard the term software will lead the world. Andreessen talked about that, and it's pretty famous. We feel that AI will now eat the world, and we've talked about this notion of shift left. So everything that you do, whether it's security, whether it's observability, whatever you do, networking, whatever, like I'm talking about Cisco domains, it's true for other domains as well. You want to move further and further left in the development life cycle. So shift left is saying that let's tackle the hard problems right at the front. So when we are developing a piece of software, let's tackle the hard problems right there and then. So when you write your first line of code, make sure it's observable, make sure it's secure, make sure it's scalable, and so on. I think that shift left notion will actually get accelerated because shift left was a very API first centric notion because you're dealing with APIs and you want to make sure everything is scalable, secure, observable, etc. With AI, you're actually making that task even simpler. So the task of writing code, the task of building agents, and taking the shift left philosophy even further left is going to be another thing that I'm super excited about. There are others as well that we can talk about, but these three clearly resonate with me.
With GenAI coming, I mean, being everywhere now, and you said what we can expect from 2024 is more companies using it at scale, using it to unlock more impacts and more functions, more use cases, and so on. Can you tell us a bit more about what you see and how you see this happening in companies, and especially for those listening to us who are managers, CEOs, and who are managing their business and trying to understand how they can leverage GenAI in their companies to get a real business impact.
First and foremost, embrace it, get onto the journey, don't resist it, and accelerate. In fact, I would say accelerate that journey. So that's number
Yes.
one. But then, what do you go after? Right. So, one of the things that you need to realize is again, the field is evolving, but there are certain attributes of foundation models of generative AI that are pervasive. Right. So, it's really good at synthesizing a bunch of data sources. It's really good at summarizing a bunch of data sources. So there's this set of attributes that you should be aware of that generative AI is really good at. So generative AI is like going to a library, reading a bunch of books and saying, "Oh, I get a fair idea of what's there in the library, so I can explain to somebody what something means. I can summarize it, or I can synthesize everything that I've read and generate a survey report or something like that. Or if
Mm.
there's a question and I've read about that answer somewhere, then I can answer it. But if I have not read the answer somewhere, then I'll just create something. So that's a hallucination. So I'll just create something. So you should be careful about those things. So I think just understanding what generative AI can produce for you is the next step. The way to start also would be to pick a few use cases that have a low cost of failure. So because you're starting out and you say, Okay, maybe it's an assistant for a Q&A bot, right? Question and answer bot. That's a low cost of failure. If something goes wrong, it doesn't impact your business in a big way. But what it allows you to do is experiment. And the most important thing here is it allows you to figure out the gaps in your organization, whether it's a skill set gap, whether it's a data gap, whether it's a ML pipeline gap. I mean, what are those gaps? You can identify those gaps and then work on it for some more business critical use cases that you should be getting into this year as we feel.
So when you do this, when you experiment, you learn about the technology, but you learn also about your capacity
That's right.
to currently leverage fully those technologies
That's right.
and see what you need to do to improve and to get ready for that.
That's correct.
Very often I hear managers talking about the issue of talents in developing and implementing Gen AI. Another issue that I hear a lot is about data, the quality of data. Is it something that do you have any recommendations around this?
Yeah, I mean, actually, so if you think, I mean, those are both very critical challenges to overcome, and we see that everywhere. If you, unless you are like a AI first company right from the get go, which is like a startup, let's say, that is starting out today.
Yes.
Otherwise, you are in the same boat like all of us, which is there is a skill set gap. Even the biggest players in the industry actually have a skill set gap. So there is a skill set gap no matter where you sit. There is a AI is useless without good data. And it's not just good data when it comes to training the model, but also when you're fine tuning or customizing the model, but also when you're customizing it towards your inference time. So when you're actually using the AI to generate results, at that point, there are techniques like retrieval augmented generation or RAG. You'll hear this term everywhere, RAG. And RAG is very straightforward. What RAG does is it makes generative AI specific to your organization. Because if you think about, let's say, ChatGPT or Bard or whatever, right, Claude, any foundation model out there, which is a general purpose foundation model, it doesn't know aspects about your organization that are sensitive. So, my financial model, products that I'm going to release, the processes that I use internally for procurement or for sales enablement.
RAG, so RAG, and I don't remember what it stands for.
Yeah, so
Uh,
RAG is RAG and it stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. This is a business critical function where tell me about the sales forecast, right? I mean, that is very sensitive data. ChatGPT should not be able to answer that. If it is answering that, there has been a security breach on your end.
yes,
Right? So,
definitely.
but I think, but I think you would want an internal assistant, which is only available to certain organizations or certain people within your organization to be able to answer that question. Like I would say, like an HR person should not be able to look at data which is looking at sales forecast as an example, but a sales leader should be able to look at that information, and so should a finance person. So one thing that we are really diving deep into here is this is where something like RAG becomes really important, because you can take a general purpose foundation model or generative AI model, bring it into your organization, feed it data that is specific to that team, restrict it to that team so it is access bound to that team, so that that assistant plus plus now becomes really valuable for all the functions that are business critical in that team, whether it's legal, whether it's sales, finance, which are really important business critical functions, or even engineering. I mean, you don't want engineering designs and code to leave your premises. So this is where I think the world is moving. And to handle this, there are challenges around, again, data cleanup, of course, skill set we've talked about. There are challenges around prevention of toxicity and bias and hallucinations. So everything that we name as trust. So make sure that it's trustworthy. And then the challenges around security, because if you compromise the LLM, everything gets compromised, right? You can't trust anything at that point.
Yes.
So there are a whole bunch of challenges, but like we discussed, let's start with the low hanging fruit and then move that ball forward.
Yes. And it reminds me that you, at Cisco, you released at the end of last year the GenAI Readiness Index. Um, and this was very useful. I mean, I remember the insights around where companies stand currently in their maturity in the adoption of GenAI, and definitely with, I mean, I remember the outcome was that there is still a lot of work to do, but yeah, a huge opportunity in front of us.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, if you look at the stats that we gathered from that readiness index, 97% of CEOs and CXOs actually want to dive deep into generative AI and make it a business priority. And the way we like to describe it is like digitization was something that everybody wanted to do because every business is a software business, is a digital business. I think we should change that statement and say every business is an AI first business. And so the good news is that almost every CEO wants to do that. The bad news is what we found out is that only 14% of who we surveyed said that they were ready to do
Yes,
this or their organization was ready to do this. So there's because
that's
of the host of challenges that we just talked about. The other challenge that we actually just quickly to point out, this space is rapidly evolving as well. So as we all see around us, there's GPT 3.5, 4, 5 is coming down the, sorry, 3.5 was there, 4 came out, 5 is coming down. There's Bard, Gemini, the open source models, which are actually becoming very, very capable. So like the Llama 2s or the Mistral models. How do you keep up? Number one, but that's a skill set education problem. But number two, how do you build all of these deployments of AI first applications in a very abstract manner so that you evolve with the industry, so that you don't
yes.
pick something today and then you get left behind tomorrow? So I would say good abstractions is also a challenge to go after.
Yeah, exactly. So modular and flexible, so that whenever a new opportunity in terms of a new technology coming in on the market is available and could bring impact to your business, being able to plug it right away and benefit from it.
Mhm. That's right.
Vijoy, I just remember now that you told me offline before we started this discussion that you have an announcement to do to tell us today. Um, that's right, huh?
That's right.
Um, I think I have a few more questions for the tech trends of 2024, but then we will get to this announcement. But just for the audience to be aware of, bear a few minutes, and we have a Cisco announcements coming for you, Prime, uh, in the coming minutes. Before getting there, just a question on quantum computing. I think it's such an amazing topic and such I mean, something that will change really the tech. For me, it's a really an accelerator, a huge accelerator for the whole tech sector, basically. Um, what are the quantum trends that Cisco expect to happen, and how will that change businesses and maybe even more than businesses, society as a whole?
Oh yeah, so quantum to us, like we discussed in the beginning, Pascal, I think quantum is the other step function. And when it really happens in a very pervasive way, just like AI is happening right now, generative AI, I think that will be a much bigger step function than anything that we've seen. And the reason for that is quantum computers behave very differently from classical computers. So in a classical computer that we all deal with today, these are all transistor based or gate based compute nodes where they all carry binary information. So it's a bit and it's either on or off. And you transmit a 1 and 0, and that's what the world is built of. Quantum nodes, quantum qubits or quantum bits are actually properties of quantum. So they will actually represent, each quantum bit or qubit represents two states at any given point in time. So let's take the spin of an electron. till you measure whether that electron is spinning up or spinning down. That electron exhibits both spin up and spin down at the same time. That allows it to have two bits of information at the same time till you measure it. So, because of this property, what happens is a few things happen. First and foremost, you can do a lot more computation with fewer qubits. So, you will not need billions of transistors. You will need something much smaller. Some people are saying even in the thousands of qubit ranges, you'll achieve better results than billions of transistors that you see today. So that's one.
So higher efficiency in the computing.
Way higher efficiency. The other thing is certain classes of problems actually become much simpler to solve just because of this nature. So in layman terms, what you can say is like where this is most applicable is security. So if you think about security, the way you and I talk to each other, let's say I go on Amazon and buy socks. Every time I'm talking to any website, any application, even my apps on my phone, it's all encrypted. We are all talking about encrypted channels. When you look at encryption today, there are two aspects of encryption. One is you exchange keys. So I want to enter your house, but you need to give me the keys to enter your house. Once I enter your house is built of solid iron. So I'm already very encrypted. But to enter the house, I need the keys to your house. So to enter Amazon as a store, I need the keys to Amazon. Once I enter Amazon and I'm actually communicating with Amazon, it's a solid iron house, not a problem. But if somebody comes in and says, you know what, I listened to you talking to Amazon and I have your key. So, like Pascal, supposing somebody gave person X the key that you are supposed to give it to me, then your iron house does not matter because the key has gone to that person. They can easily enter anytime. The way key is exchanged on the internet today on everything that we do, can be easily compromised using a quantum computer. Now, not today, because quantum nodes are small, but in the near future. So, to us, that is the biggest problem to solve. And quantum itself can solve the problem of making those key exchanges quantum safe so that when you give me your key, another quantum node cannot just take away my key, right? Or your key. So I think that is a problem that we are going after in a big way, making security quantum safe. And what we need to do as a result is also build a network that can carry quantum information. So these two aspects are related. So we're making all communication quantum safe, but also building out a network where you can exchange these keys to make communication quantum safe. So those are the things that we are looking at. Uh, there's a lot of work going on making these quantum nodes scalable. And if you think about data centers in the classical world, how do you scale out? You connect a bunch of these through a network, a data center network. Then you connect them through a WAN. So the network is a key piece of making quantum a reality. But we are starting with the security angle first.
So if I understand well, so quantum is so powerful that it can help people to change their identities and get the keys or access to anything on as if they were you or anyone else. And the only solution to that is currently to use quantum against this, fire against fire, and using the ways that you explained, using quantum to encrypt better and to increase the security beyond what we can think today, and be able to fight the power of quantum computing.
That's right. I think you can, in the meantime, till that happens, there is a proposal by NIST, which is the standards body in the United States. There is a software solution to build what is fire retardant, in your words. There is a fire happening, let's build a fire retardant enclosure. But someday the fire will eat through the fire retardant enclosure as well. So there is a software solution by NIST to buy us more time. But eventually we feel that the right way to dealing with this is fire against fire and quantum against quantum.
trust is a key component of our future, and safety, security is a critical enabler to that. We've all seen this with those deep fakes that are emerging everywhere around us. I mean, we've heard about this Taylor Swift issue recently. I mean, how do we even trust what we see? And what's your point of view on that when we see the example of Taylor Swift, for example?
Yeah, so I think that is actually a big problem ahead of us, and not ahead of us is right here. So deep fakes are a massive problem, and again, if you think about generative AI, anything that you can produce as content, there's generative AI behind it. So it could be video, it could be audio. So deep fake voices are the other big problem. Not just images, video, but audio, text. So news articles, code. So the code that you might be including in your product could be a deepfake like security breach. So there's a whole bunch of areas that deepfake is a problem, and there are various ways that the industry, not just us at Outshift and Cisco, but the industry is looking to solve for them. So one of them is there's this notion of watermarking, which I think is probably the most promising, where you say you put a signature, you put a watermark right at the source of generation.
Hmm.
So, for example, I'll give you an example in the image, like I'm a photographer as well. So, some camera manufacturers are actually putting this in the camera. So, when you take a picture, you put a watermark saying this is generated through a Sony or a Leica or whatever, right?
Yes.
On this date and by this photographer, right? So now you have a
Yes.
signature, and but your entire workflow after that needs to carry that signature in a secure way. Otherwise, somebody can come in and change that as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
your photoshops of the world, your even your presentation layer like Facebook or YouTube, they will have to carry that signature all the way through. And so
Yeah.
watermarking to me is I think a and we need to do that for every aspect of generative AI, for code, for text, for video, for everything. So that's one thing. The other way we're tackling this is what's called adversarial networks. So these are neural networks, these are AI engines that actually act as a attacker against
Hmm.
other AI models. So these adversarial engines actually do a bunch of things. So they will actually improve hallucinations. So if a model is creating things that are not true, that are fake of itself, then it'll prevent that or minimize that from happening. Then deep fakes for sure. Adversarial networks also help against security attacks. So if there are security attacks happening on generative AI models, they actually try and prevent it. But it's not foolproof. So right now it's still not foolproof. It'll just bump up the confidence. So if you could be instead of 80% confidence, if you're like 95% confident, that's what it allows you to do. Then like there, so the whole bunch of other techniques I can walk through, but I think in the end, Pascal, we need to make sure that, like we said, the entire pipeline needs to be made more secure and more trustworthy. Starting from the training of the model to content creation to the inference where you're actually using the model to answer your questions and generate some output. That entire pipeline needs to be more trustworthy, safe, and secure. That's the only way out. And yeah, this will actually lead me to some of the things that we're about to announce, but we can wait for that or talk about that right now.
Oh, no, and if you're introducing it right now, I definitely want to hear about this right now.
Yeah,
Vijoy, please.
so
So you have a great announcement today uh, to give us to the audience. Prime. Please go ahead.
thank you, Pascal. So I think if you again all the challenges that we've talked about in deploying generative AI for business critical use cases in your enterprise, whether it's the right abstractions so that you can move faster, whether it's getting ROI analysis and cost analysis done, because you might be spending a lot against these models. Are you getting the business value out? Whether it's trust and safety. So can you confidently say that there is minimal, you can't say zero, but minimal toxicity, bias, hallucination in the deployments that you have? And finally, can you ensure that there is security end to end, not just in the models that you're using and what they're sending to you, but also in your data that sits within your organization that might actually leak out for some reason? So, all of those factors of simplicity, ROI analysis and cost, trust and safety, and security, it's a very hard problem, number one. It's an evolving problem. And it's a very distributed problem because
Mhm.
developers need to get involved, who are the builders. Spenders need to get involved. So, this is the GM, the business GM. And then approvers need to get involved. So, this is the legal and the security and trust organization. They need to get involved. So, we are actually introducing a product. We are calling it Motific. And the reason behind that is, think of a motif. So, you're thinking about a motif like a music motif or a novel
Yes,
motif, or you might be writing code, and you
I
always
love
start
it.
with a motif and you want to enhance it and make it better and make it your motif. So we are building this thing called Motific, which allows all of these personas to come together. So the spender, the approver, the builder, and
On the
all
same platform. On the
on the
same
same
platform,
platform.
everybody can. Yeah.
Exactly. And all the data sources that matter come together, your organizational specific things to come together. So your data sources, your identities, access controls, compliance, all of these things to come together to then create your motifs. So you can be sure that when you're creating these motifs and deploying it, they're compliant, they're secure, they're simple to use. So you get velocity and you get ROI and cost awareness out of it. So that's something that we are announcing. It's You can go ahead and try it. It's motific.ai. You can go ahead
Okay,
and try
wow.
it and
Great.
have fun with it.
Excellent. Excellent. So it helps building models from, if we talk about more functionalities of it, from the inception, the data cleaning and preparation. Can you
No, so it's actually doesn't help you build the model yet. It actually helps you use
got
models.
it?
So if you want to build an application, so let's say you simplest case that we talked about, you want to build an assistant. And let's say you want
Yes.
to build an assistant for financial use cases. That is very critical to your business. Tell
Yes.
me how we are doing OPEX wise, or what does the forecast look like this quarter? Or how do I answer that tough question from the board member, as you
Yes.
said, right? So this is very sensitive, very business critical. You can't go wrong. It needs to be trustworthy. You can't have hallucinations. So when you are using, let's say, any model, whether you use GPT, you use Claude, you use open source like Llama or Mistral or whatever, and you build this application, which is a financial assistant, we allow you to build that application. So we allow you to build the application in a trustworthy, cost sensitive, ROI based, KPI based, and secure way. We are not allowing you to build the model, we are allowing you to use the model and then build the application instead that is
Got
specific to
it.
your environment. Like we are big believers in responsible AI, and we've been a big believer and proponent of responsible AI for a long time now. So everything that we've learned building responsible AI applications within Cisco, we're putting that in this product. So there's a
Excellent.
framework, there are metrics, you can expose the metrics to be compliant. Security, making sure that your internal data, like that forecasting data, doesn't leave your organization. The other way around as well. Let's say you're using some information from outside. Are you using like publicly available information in highly confidential areas and vice versa? Like maybe you're using open source in a piece of code using Copilot, any kind of Copilot that you should not be using, for example, right? So we're putting all these policies. Are you compliant to the security policies? Then, when you use these models to build your applications, are you getting the value you need? Because using these models is not cheap when you use GPT-4, and especially when you're using it at application scale, which is not humans typing, but software, machine scale, costs can add up very quickly. So, can
Yeah.
you look at these prompts and say, am I asking the right prompts? Or am I spending just too much money asking the wrong things? And am I getting business value out of it? So, what is the before and after? Before deployment of this application to after? Is there value on what I've spent? So, all of these things. And then putting this layer of abstraction. Today, I might be using GPT-4. Tomorrow, I might decide, you know what, open source, good enough. I want Llama 2, but I don't want to change my application. So, can I write to something so that I can change the model behind it, but not change the application? So, all of these things
Nice.
in a singular platform.
So basically solving in one box many of the issues that a lot of those models are creating today.
Yeah, and I think the way we look at this, Pascal, is also the models themselves will do a good job in what they do. But like we discussed earlier, you need to customize models with enterprise data so that it's smart about enterprise knowledge. And you
Yes.
need to put these guardrails in place because you don't want these things going even within the enterprise. You don't want HR to look at finance data or engineering to look at finance data, as an
Mm.
example, right?
Mhm.
So, how do you put those things in place? So, that's what we are solving for. We're solving for the
Yes.
enterprise pain points. And one of the
Yes.
things that we are also very proud about is that it's a very pluggable architecture. So, as the field evolves, we'll evolve the product with it. So, you will see a journey uh, along this axis.
Excellent. So that's just the beginning of Motific.
That's correct. This is the initial motive
Excellent.
of the Motific.
Thanks a lot, Vijoy, for your time and all these insights. Before we end up, can you tell us how can people learn about you, about what you do at Outshift, Cisco's research, and of course, Motific?
That's yeah. I mean, so there are a lot of resources. First and foremost, you can go to the Outshift website, so outshift.com. Very simple. Um, and outshift.com will actually lead you to a whole bunch of other places, including the landing page for Motific.ai, where you can try out the product. You can try out some of our other products for free and just play around with it. You can go to research.cisco.com. This is Cisco Research, where we are actually doing a bunch of cutting edge research, especially in quantum, in security, in AI, where we work with all sorts of academic institutions and do a bunch of research. There's opensource.cisco.com, where we actually are pretty good at open sourcing a bunch of things that we do. So you'll find a whole host of projects that we've open sourced around AI, around security. In fact, we're going to open source a few things around quantum as well. So you can play around with those things. You can download the ebook around the predictions.
Okay.
There'll be a link there as well. So do that. And yeah, just reach out to us. We are a very eager bunch. We would like to hear from you, the audience. And so reach out to us. Happy to chat.
Excellent.